fade in. What I was going to tell you guys is I was watching this video of this guy. He's out in somewhere. It could have been anywhere. United States, there's a lot of places he could have been. But he's got a pistol on his hip, and he is walking along out in the middle of no doggone where. Doggone, not damn. Anyway, this lion comes up on him. Mountain lion. Oh, yeah. Now, like I said, he's got a pistol on his hip, and he's dealing with a mountain lion that is pretty quick. And when you see a mountain lion, for some reason, your body will start shaking immediately. I guarantee it. I don't care what hand you're holding that gun with. When you see a mountain lion, but especially face to face, you start your whole body, because you don't know what's getting ready to happen, folks. Your whole body just starts shaking. It's called adrenaline. Well, this guy, he took the closer this lion got to him, it was a mountain lion, folks. It wasn't no doggone African lion and all, nothing like that. It was a mountain lion that's in the United States. I don't know where he was, though. That's what I'm saying. But he was kind of out in a flat, open area, which kind of surprised me because I never found one in that area. But the closer this lion got, he already had his gun out. He's got like a GoPro on, and you can see his gun out in his hand, and you can see the lion coming up on him. And the lion's coming up aggressively, and the lion's even standing, and he's doing stances that I was like, what the hell? The lion's on crack or something, the way he was standing coming up at this guy. But this guy took his first shot, and the lion kind of run over towards the right of him. Stopped, turned around, was still looking at him and still coming. And this guy's backing up the whole time. He's still moving backwards. And I think that's his problem. If he would have stood his ground with that gun, I don't think the lion would have kept coming at him. But that's this old man theory. I haven't proven that theory, but I've seen it proven in other ways. But anyway, finally, he popped off a couple more, and I think it was 2 or 3 more shots, and finally the lion ends up taking off. But this is what I was going to say in this video is I had been all over the desert and mountains of the valley, the Phoenix Valley area, by north, south, east, and west ends, all of them. I was crawling through all those mountains in either on a dirt bike or a truck. If I found caves or heard about caves or mine shafts or anything, mine shafts or anything, we went and checked them out. Now I was living in Queen Creek, and there was up behind my house not my house, but behind the house I lived in, there was a mountain, and it was probably about maybe 2,000 to 3,000 foot tall mountain. There was a couple of peaks on it, and we called the saddle the low spot. And up towards the highest part of the peak, there's an old copper mine that used to go on back in probably the 80s or 70s or something. There was a big copper mine up there, and now this copper mine went back in the mountain probably close to 100 yards or better. I never measured it, didn't take a tape with me, but I walked that thing many times in and out. And you had to get about 80% of the way through this mine in order to find the shaft that went straight down. And even back when I was in it, that shaft had water all the way to the top of it, folks. We were well over 1,500 foot above sea level. We were 1,500 feet above the sand of the desert that was below us. And it had water all the way to about 10 foot to the top of that shaft, 10, 15 foot. Well, that shaft, at my nephews wanted to go up there. My son they wanted to see this mine. On top of it, my brother-in-law, that was the father to my nephews that wanted to see it, they all wanted to see it. So I had a truck that would get us right to the entrance. You didn't have to climb no mountain to get to it or nothing. I could get them. I could put you. And if the entrance was a little bit bigger, I could drive my truck inside the entrance. But it was up on the side of this mountain, folks. Badass. It was hard to get. There was just a handful of us that could drive all the way to the opening. But I took these guys back in there, and at this time, out in Arizona, I carried a gun on my hip all the time. I carried at least it was either a 9mm or a 40, or I can't remember if I carried a 45, but I don't think I ever carried a 45. I own 45s, but they were too heavy to carry. But and didn't have enough shots. But I brought them up to that mine opening, and I took them back in there. Now they wanted to go. Nobody brought no flashlights or nothing. We're getting ready to walk back into a mine. I had 2 flashlights in my truck. So I took one, and my brother-in-law took the other one. We had now 3 boys with us. Well, I've got a gun on my hip. It was either, like I said, a 9 or a 40 or something. I think it was a 9. That's what I usually carried. But I'm walking up in the front because I know I've been through there many times. And so I'm guiding them back in there. I'm going to show them the shaft of this mine. Not mine, folks. Don't go there. But now, as we're coming up, like I told you, me and my brother-in-law was the only 2 that had flashlights. And they were little bitty flashlights like this. They weren't no big old flashlights. Well, he was behind, and I was in the front, and everybody else was in between. I come walking up on the actual shaft to the mine, and when I brought my flashlight up, that mountain lion jumped. He was standing up on the top of the shaft that went down the wood, and as soon as my flashlight hit him, he jumped down and inside the shaft, and I'm like, what? So I walked over and I looked down. He was standing on the side of that shaft because there was water right below him, like inches below him. He jumped from one part of the wood to the other part, and it was about, I don't know, it looked like it was about a good 16 foot from one side to the other on this shaft. Well, I'm inside a stone mine. You don't pull a gun and just start firing inside where it's going to ricochet around and take you out. You don't, or everybody else somebody else that's with you. It's going to bounce off all. This was straight through the rock, folks. This wasn't no dirt. This was all cut right through the rocks. Right through stone, folks. This whole mountain was a stone. So I saw that mountain lion. I turned my butt, said, hey, follow me. And I headed back the 75 yards back to my truck. Now, my son was one of them that was in there. 2 nephews and a brother-in-law. I reached my truck. Never drawed my gun. I ain't lying to you. Now, I'm standing there trying to figure out what I'm going to tell her, my son's mother, my wife, why a lion ate him and not me. So I draw my gun. Now, if it was men, it's one thing. We're talking about animals, folks. You don't know what an animal's going to do. So I go back in looking. I'm going back to get them. I got my gun in my hand. Oh yeah. I get back in there, all the way back to the shack. Don't see none of them. No lights. Don't hear no sound. Well, there was a split off that went off to the left. That if you always just stayed to the right to get in or out. You know, if you hit that split, it went a little ways, but you come to a dead end. So now I don't know what happened to the mountain lion at this time. I'm walking around. I got my flashlight like this and my gun in my hand. Anything moves, they better. I hope it ain't. It better be somebody that I don't have to shoot, because I mean I was like that, folks. I'm telling you, where my light was, my gun was aimed. I wasn't playing. Never did see that lion. Didn't find none. Couldn't find none of them. Well, that lion got fed good tonight. Oh yeah. No, when I come back down, backtracking, went off to the left, went down through there, and I found them down there. And the flashlight they had, the batteries were going so low that they had almost no light. So I got to them, and they didn't even know there was a lion in there with them, to be honest with you, until I told them once we got out front. I said, oh, they go, what happened to you? I said, lion. Lion. Watachi and lions don't go together. No, we don't do lions. We get away from lions. Follow me if you keep up. By God, if we're running from lions, you better follow me. I'm getting out of there. But nobody got hurt. But it wasn't. That was from God. God saved them all, because it wasn't me. That's for damn sure. And I had the gun. People, God loves you. I love you. Just one of my stories. Part 2. Find Jesus' path, folks. Seriously. That's all that matters. Do what you need to do. Find the Father.